Hello and welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is Whisky Review number 91. What I have for you today is a single malt Scotch whisky from Islay that I've been meaning to review for years. And that's because it comes in the form of this. The Bruichladdich, the classic Laddie. You could not miss that in a crowd, could you? We always knew historically, before they released this, after the 10-year-old was originally discontinued, you could spot that a mile off. And then they got you again in the second half, didn't they? With the bright bottle when they released this. So, Bruichladdich, the classic Laddie, Scottish barley, is, as it sounds, a Bruichladdich. Is also, as it sounds, produced using Scottish barley. It is bottled at 50%. It is non-chill filtered. It has no added colouring. It is a no age statement Bruichladdich. This is their new entry level, and I say new, it's not new, it's been around for quite a few years now. They used to just have the standard 10-year-old, the Bruichladdich, the Laddie 10. And then they discontinued that a few years back, introduced this, then brought the 10-year-old back for a second batch, again temporarily, with this bottling continuing going forwards their flagship whisky, I guess you could call it. It's their entry level whisky, but it's the one that you will find more often than not on the shelf in the shop. So there's your colour, natural colour, a nice light gold there. Now, this has been matured in a myriad of casks, right? The reason I know that is because there's something pretty cool. And it's something, well, it's not something, it is one of the many reasons why I'm quite a big fan of Bruichladdich, which incidentally will not affect my score on this review. I do judge each whisky on its own merit. If you go on to the Bruichladdich website, here we are, okay? And then you go on to the bit that says Bruichladdich. It's just loading. And then explore our range, yep. Click the classic Laddie, there we go. £43 including VAT. There you go, the official RRP there as well, 43 quid. And you see that there, at the bottom, just there where my finger's pointing. What that says is transparency recipe code. Alright? And on the back of every bottle of this, along with a couple of others in the range as well, there's a 5-digit code. In this particular instance, 19/039. So if I enter 19/039, so there it is, there's my number, and I click display, thinks about it, what's it doing, and do you know what that does? That brings up exactly what casks were used in the vatting of this single malt, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So you can see there, you might not be able to see, hopefully you can, a vatting of 76 casks, 4 different vintages, 3 different barley types, and 6 different cask types. So just looking at some of these, just a very, very quick look there. There's just the first 3, right? So you've got a second fill ex-bourbon at the top. We've then got a red wine cask. Oh wow. First fill red wine cask, vintage 2008. This was bottled in 2019, by the way. And the barley for that particular cask, for example, Scottish Mainland. The Scottish Mainland Organic as well. 2009 vintage USA bourbon barrel first fill. I'm not going to go through them all, I'll be here all night. But the youngest whisky in this this vatting appears to be 8 years old. 7 or 8 years old, depending on when it was put into cask, I suppose. I mean, this was actually bottled on the 28th of February 2019. It even gives you a little profile at the bottom, flavour profile based on the vatting. Which is just fantastic. It's phenomenal. This is proper whiskey geekery. And it's not even that, this is the sort of transparency that I wish more distilleries have. I think part of the problem is recording that information, or at least making it accessible to everyone in a concise format, which is exactly what Bruichladdich have done. Kudos, Bruichladdich. Kudos to you. Anyway, moving on. Oh, my heart's going. My heart's going. Right. Some nice sticky legs there. I mean, I'm going to try it initially at 50%. I will water it down a little bit. Yep, it's prickly at 50. It settles down a little bit. It's initially, admittedly, it is quite astringent at first, but also very, very salty, very ozony, vanilla, a little bit of a vegetal note in there maybe, like seaweed possibly. Quite sweet now, a little bit of citrus. Maybe caramel as well actually, which isn't something I usually get from Laddie's. Worth saying as well, which is something I've omitted so far, this is an unpeated Bruichladdich, which the vast majority are. I mean, obviously you've got Port Charlotte and Octomore, which is their peated expressions. Something I've also omitted to mention and point out, yes, I'm wearing a hat indoors. I've been in lockdown for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and I've lost all sense of standard dress standards, and I don't really go out. So I go out running, but you know, I don't see other people. No, don't do that. Oh. It's a very, very nice kind of clean minerality to it as well, which is what you find on some Italian white wines. Okay, on the palate, 50%. As you can imagine, a very opulent mouthfeel at that strength. Again, a little bit astringent, but then it warms up into this lovely, very, very inviting sort of combination of the vanilla, the citrus, the saltiness, the salinity that I mentioned there on the nose as well. Quite creamy, and there is just a little hint, both on the nose and the palate, of something that I've mentioned in several whiskey reviews, and I think I mentioned on the Port Charlotte review, haylage, which is a type of cattle feed basically, which is, as it sounds, it's made of hay. It's just baled hay. When you see those big plastic bales of hay, it's haylage, which is where they cut the hay down and wait for it to start decomposing. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in, not too much, maybe just 2 teaspoons. Let that do its thing for a little while, just do that. A couple more drops in there. The important thing to remember about whiskey of this strength, and even higher, I mean, bearing in mind, I mean, even I've got whiskies in my collection upwards of the mid-60s, you know, 64, 65%. You can always add more, but you can never take it out. So go easy when you put in your water in your higher strength whiskies, because there is a noticeable difference, which I think I've said on a couple that I've watered down from 46. Sometimes it just drops it off a cliff completely and changes the entire profile, and not for the benefit. While that's opening up, again, I think it's fantastic what I showed at the start with the cask makeup. I really, really enjoyed it. That's the first time I've done it. I've read about it and I've heard about it, but it's the first time I've actually gone ahead and done it. That's amazing. in the last review I mentioned the Somerton Whisky Festival, which is happening on the 30th of May. I'm still really looking forward to that, and if you've not got your tickets for that already, check it out, somertonwhiskeyfestival.com. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, just to sort of gauge a bit of interest really, see if it's something that will be of interest, and I will be asking the question on Twitter and Instagram as well. I was thinking potentially of maybe having an online merchandise store, which isn't something I've really been a big fan of, to be honest, when I've seen not just other whisky bloggers do, but just other bloggers in general outside the whisky community. But to be honest with you, there's nothing untoward about it. It's purely an idea in the sense of funding, I guess, future bottles to review, because it's an expensive hobby, and the majority of the bottles that I've found I've been buying recently I have bought purely for the purpose of review. The fact I've enjoyed some of them is a bit of a Brucey bonus, and maybe it's something that I was just sort of thinking of putting out there, just maybe nothing drastic. I'm not talking about like a malt box dishwasher or anything like that, you know, or a malt box football or God knows what else. I'm not sponsoring my local football team because they don't exist anymore. Bury FC, rest in peace. So yeah, I mean, it'd just be things like t-shirts, maybe hats. Not this one. This is a San Francisco Giants cap, but something similar, maybe with my logo on it, which I might be changing up pretty soon actually, because I only have one file left of that design that I had about 7 years ago, and it's very pixelated, it's not great, so I can't really use it on many things. So I might be getting a new logo done soon. But yeah, just to really gauge interest, give us a comment. If it's something you'd be interested in, let me know. It wouldn't be extortionate, it'd be something like 12, 13, maybe £14 for a t-shirt, and it would be run by a third party, like Spreadshirt or something, that it'd be all dealt with by them, etc. It'd just have my little icon on it. I would only get a certain cut from it. I'm not going to take the whole thing. I'm not going to be profiteering off anything. It's literally just, if you fancy, you know, repping what I do, then appreciate it, and, you know, thanks for watching in general. Yeah, leave us a comment. So, after that, this is plenty of time now, I think, to open up with a little bit of water. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, so you see, the haylage note that I mentioned, which is something that I've mentioned, again, I know I've said it on the Port Charlotte review, but even in past Bruichladdich bottlings, it's something that's been quite predominant for me, having lived in a rural area all my life. It's something I smell quite a lot, and it's just something when I walk down the street, and particularly this time of year, when it's all sat there in the fields, it's just all around me. There's a really nice, sweet, sugary barley note in there as well, which I think is a testament to the ingredients that are being used, as well as the way they're being distilled. The vanilla's still there, the citrus is still there. The citrus is actually a lot stronger now. Like lemon peel rather than orange peel or orange zest, because it is a little bit more tart, I find. I find that I can differentiate between lemon and orange peel and zest. My wife does quite a lot of baking, and I can tell when she's using lemon rather than orange in the kitchen. Sorry, Winston's just having a bit of a drink. Again, I'm in the dining room, which backs onto the kitchen, so needs must. You know what, mate? Yeah, happy days. He doesn't get to enjoy stuff like this, so I'll let him be. And do you know what? Again, there is that minerality to it as well. I can't really explain it. It's almost like, if you imagine what, you know, like when, it's going to sound stupid, when rocks or stones get really warm in the sun, and there's a little bit of maybe vegetation on them or something like that, it gives you this really, really nice sort of warm rock, I guess. God, that sounds so stupid. It does sound obscene, doesn't it? It sounds ridiculous, but genuinely, that's the only thing I can kind of compare it to. Vanilla custard, again with the citrus there. A nice bit of pepper and a little bit of spice as well. Again, good mouthfeel. The water hasn't taken too much of an edge out of it in terms of that viscosity. It might have taken a little bit of impact away from the palate. However, it's still carrying for me those core notes of the barley, the vanilla, the spice, a little bit of toffee maybe, the citrus. It's unpeated, but there is almost a little whiff of smoke in there. Only a tiny bit, a bit like how I explained the smoke was in the Queen Margot 3-year-old, oddly enough. It's just there right at the end, right at the background. Really, really nice whiskey. The finish, quite long, warming, leaning towards the citrus actually, rather than the sort of spice and the creaminess. Yeah, it is an interesting dram. I mean, it's an interesting dram just straight off the bat when you get to know exactly what your cask makeup is just by entering a 5-point code on the website. I mean, Bruichladdich have always been kind of at the forefront of this progressiveness, which, you know, is why they describe themselves as progressive Hebridean distillers, and this is a prime example as to why they wear that crown. Adam Hannett has been doing a great job following Jim McEwen's retirement, and kudos to you, Adam, for continuing the good work that Jim did, and all the team at the distillery have done as well. Good presentation, non-chill filtered, no added colour, bottled at 50%. Majority ex-bourbon, which again ticks a lot of boxes for me, as I've mentioned in the past. I think for me, in terms of score, I'm going to give the Bruichladdich Classic Laddie a 7 out of 10. Yes, it's not an 8, it's not a 9, it's not a 10. Again, to reiterate, as I've said in previous reviews, I'm being a bit tight when it comes to score. Alright, I am being a bit tight. What they've done with this is the way that so many more distilleries should operate, not just in the sense of using Scottish barley. I mean, a lot of barley, as I mentioned previously, for whisky production doesn't just come from Scotland, it comes from England, it comes from Australia, it comes from Canada, it comes from further afield, blah blah blah. The fact that they've actually gone out of their way to produce this whisky with Scottish barley is a tick. Transparency in terms of the cask makeup, the production methods, etc., through that bottle code, really easy to do. Just go on the website like I showed you, put the bottle number in, done. That's another tick. Presentation in terms of strength, non-chill filtration, and 43 quid. It's a no age statement whiskey. Yeah, alright, it's a no age statement whiskey, but in the scheme of no age statement whiskies that are out there that are costing the same, if not more, I think this is a very, very good value for money whiskey, and a very, very good solid introduction to the sort of like Bruichladdich house style, what has become the Bruichladdich house style. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. See you soon.